Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the Ummahpreneur live podcast. Today on this very special episode, I have with me a very special guest, Sister Arooj Chishty. Arooj, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi
Wa
wa
alaikum
barakatuh.
assalam. Thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. And just to let the guests know a little bit about yourself before we kind of dive into our conversation, everything I want to talk about today. So Sister Arooj is a certified holistic health coach, and she's the founder of the natural beauty brand Nyure. So I made sure I hopefully pronouncing that right. So just like pure, pronounce it Nyure. And they've taken proven ingredients and knowledge from ancient and prophetic traditions. And what they've done is they've really combined them with modern techniques to give every person at every age the radiance they deserve. So they have these beautiful skincare products that they offer, and it's all made of potent formulas to balance, nourish, and brighten all skin types. And it's all natural, organic, and that's what I love about it. So I wanted to bring you on today to talk about your experience and just your story and how you created this beautiful brand.
Sure. Thanks so much. So I am a certified holistic health coach, but this wasn't always, the track that I had imagined. I was in corporate America for about 10 years. I'm actually a math statistics major. So, nothing really in this track. And how we came about this was kind of happenstance. So I have two, and it was more of a personal journey initially. And then it kind of transcended into what this is right now. So I have two metabolic illnesses, hypothyroid and PCOS, which many, many women, suffer with. And so after my third child, I was having a really difficult time balancing my hormones, and, they were putting me on different medications and things, and, losing weight. I was just feeling really bad, like tired. And, you have three kids, 8, 4, and a newborn, and you have to do something. So after a couple of years of just going back and forth, I said, you know what, I'm going to try something different, and so I kind of became a health coach, a holistic health coach, and went down, I went to school for a number of months, and I went with the Dr. Sears program. He comes on, I don't know if you've ever seen this show, The Doctors. He's like a pediatrician, and also, a doctor, but he also has his own courses on, natural holistic healing. Anyway, so I went to his school, and I did all that, and then, got my life and, feeling healthy and better and everything. But then we started looking at, so once we did the food and, the cleaning products and stuff, because a lot of that stuff is, processed, and it has hormones in it, and it has things that mess with your natural rhythm, right? And so we took that all for me and my kids both. They also have some autoimmune illnesses. So anyways, at that time I had a 12-year-old daughter. I mean, she's 16 now. And we started to think, okay, so all this stuff is bad in the food and, cleaning and stuff. Let's look at like what I use, like skincare and lotions and creams, because that's the time where, the girls go through changes. And I didn't want her to have an added, influence from products, if possible, and kind of keep her away from the illnesses that I had, because I didn't know what caused them, right? Maybe it was, my lifestyle. Maybe it was the products that I use, because a lot of the skincare ingredients are hormone imbalances, are, estrogen, mess with your estrogen levels. And and they're not FDA regulated. In the United States here, you can basically put anything in, and you can hide it behind, different wordings. So anyway, so that's how that came about. And so we started making products for ourselves, for my daughter and for me, because we were like, we're going to just go all natural. And then we started doing that, and people in the community started saying, oh, wow, your daughter's skin looks so good now, because, she's a teenager. She was going through those hormonal changes. And they're like, what did you do? Oh, yeah, what are you doing? You're like 40, years old. Why does your skin look so nice? Blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, I don't know, we started this, whatever. And then I started handing them out to my friends and family. And then somebody put the idea in my head, one of my friends. They're like, we know all these people that do these lives on like Facebook and whatever, and their products are not even as good as yours. Why don't you sell them? And so that idea was, put in our head a number of years ago. But also, I wanted to go back to why we went with the prophetic ingredients, because what we started to do was we also started to, when we were changing our lifestyle, look at like Tib Nabawi. Tib Nabawi is not only the eating habits of the Prophet ﷺ, it was his lifestyle, how he slept, when, you know, how much exercise he got, that type of things, you know, his schedule, basically, you know, when to wake, when to sleep. So all those lifestyle changes. And so then we also went back to the fruits and vegetables, and then the oils and different things that are made from those ingredients that are mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah, because, you know, they have amazing properties. And we focused on the black seed at first, because, you know, which is the Nigella sativa, because that recently has had a lot of in scientific research done over the past 20 years. It's actually been used as a supplement to even treating cancer. And you can go on to, you know, the scientific websites and see how they've used that they've isolated, you know, elements from the black seed. So, like I said, 2 of my children have an autoimmune. They have a vitiligo, which is where the skin, you know, loses its melanin. Right. And they have one that is trauma induced. So the more eczema that they get, the more scratching and irritation that they have, the worse it gets, basically. So anyway, so that's how it started. So we started looking at the prophetic ingredients, seeing, well, you know, this actually helps vitiligo, this helps eczema, this ingredient from Africa helps, you know, this, you know, condition. And then of course, you know, I'm getting older, so I'm like, what do we do for the anti-aging part? And so we started adding, you know, looking at the anti-aging properties like pomegranate seed and, you know, fig and all these beautiful, beautiful ingredients that are mentioned in the Quran. Anyway, so that's how we began our journey.
Right. That's amazing. So it all started with you actually trying to find a solution for your own family, and then from that sharing it with friends, and then realizing, oh, this is actually working. People are enjoying it. Maybe I should consider doing this into a business.
Yes, exactly. And because I'm a statistician, so, you know, what we did was we said, well, we can't just go on, 5 or 10 of our friends, you know, it works for them. So we created a list of people all over the country that we knew, and what type of skin types they were and things like that. And this was like a year and a half long process. And we sent them our products, and we had them fill out surveys. And then we, you know, tabulated the data and saw what worked. I mean, we had a small group before we did that of people, you know, that were close to us that give us advice. Oh, this smells like this, you need to, you know, reduce this, or, you know, this is too oily, or this is too whatever, right? So once we got our formula, what we thought was perfected, then we handed it out to everybody, collected that data, and said, okay, if it works for, you know, 95% of the people, they didn't have any reactions to it, because it's something that, you know, you also don't want people to, although the products are natural, they can still have reactions to some of these ingredients because they're nut-based, they're natural-based, you know. And so that's how we gathered our data and said, okay, yes, this is working. These are proven separately as, you know, helpful, scientifically proven ingredients, but do they work together? And so when we put them together, you know, they worked. And there was actually a few products that we didn't launch because they didn't work what they were meant to do. We had an under eye cream that everybody said, nope, didn't really do much for me. We thought it would based on the ingredients, but when we looked at the data, we saw that, you know, it wasn't. So we didn't, you know, invest our money into marketing that and producing that.
So I love what I'm hearing here, because what I'm hearing is actually like on the ground marketing research that's being done in the business before products are being released. Right?
Yes, exactly. Because you have to, because when you are dealing with any type of things like food or skincare, you have to make sure that you have to protect yourself, right? Because what you don't want is, you don't want somebody having any type of reaction to any of your products. You also have to buy insurance and, you know, things like that, of course. Afterwards to protect yourself, but you have to do that part because it's almost unethical, right? Because you can't make statements that this works because you've only tried it on like 5 people, right? Statistically, that's not a significant amount of, you know, people in any sort of trial. And second, you have to, as being Muslims and doing things with ihsan, right? And with excellence and perfection, you have to go that extra step in everything that you do, because that will just give peace to you, and also it will show in your products, and it will show in in your whole company. If you start with that intention of perfection, of ihsan, and pleasing, and doing the things the right way for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah, definitely. And I really like that ideology. And for people listening to this who are entrepreneurs, people aspiring to start their businesses, a lot of them wonder, a lot of the times, I have an idea or I have something that I think could be pretty interesting to share with the world. What is the best way to go about it? And I think you just shared it in your own story, right? That starting off by first creating something that you found a need, you found a problem, right? That you felt like all these products were being created with all these harmful ingredients, right? All of these synthetic ingredients, artificial ingredients that weren't FDA approved. And you felt like you wanted something natural for your skin, for your family's skin. And you went out and you figured out, okay, what can I do to solve that problem? And you solved it for yourself, for your family, then for a few friends. And then you realize, oh, maybe I can do this as a business. But then not only that, then you're like, okay, let me do some market research, really get my proof of concept. And you went and did the research, and then you release a product, which is essentially the path that every single entrepreneur needs to take when they want to release a product or launch a business.
Right.
And for yourself, when you decided that you wanted to now create this into an official brand, create Nyure Beauty, and package the product, really start pretty much building this as a business, what were the steps that you needed to take to go from this home formula and solution to like, okay, this is an official brand now?
Right. So the first step that I took was I met with a marketing expert, and because I am not, savvy with marketing, let's just say. And so, and the first step that he says, you have to decide what avenue you are going to sell your products on. Like, is it going to be in store? Is that your, goal off the bat? Are you going to just do it online? And then on what platforms are you going to market it? Are you going to use are you going to sell it wholesale to other, marketplaces basically that they have? Or are you going to just develop your own website and just do it online only? So that's like the first step. Like, where are you going to sell these products? What's your intention, right? So once you have that down, and so because this is something that, I'm a mom first and foremost, it was going to be something that I would have to do initially on the side anyways. And again, my youngest was 3, 2.5, 3 at the time. So this was a while back. And so you have to kind of know your own limitations. And I knew my own limitations at that time. And so I said, well, initially, I'm just going to sell online, and that's what I'm going to work for, my own website. I have enough, knowledge and, savviness to build my own website and, go that way. And so that's what I did. And then one of the other things he asked me was, well, and I said, well, should I just send my products to Melanie at Odd Ijab, or, all these people that I knew from, my different experiences. And what they had said was, you could, but what you don't want to do is have a bad review potentially from somebody who is so influential off the bat. So what you need to also do is make sure that you have some sort of cutoff, like after the first 100 products or something of that one sold, then you can start, marketing it to some of these people that are more famous, in whatever your own community, because you don't want, to have that potential negative review, even though you believe in your product, even though you did your market research, even though you tested with, these many hundreds of people, still, you have to, that's just part of the marketing process, that you don't want to do that. And so I was a little bit bummed. And the reason I mentioned Melanie was because, Melanie El-Turk was because, I think one of your questions was, how did you, what pushed you to the edge, right? So this is in 2019. It is, before the pandemic. We attended a National Hijab Day, World Hijab Day, and in Oklahoma City. And Melanie El-Turk was there, and she was the guest speaker, and she was actually sitting at our table. So we had a long conversation with her. And at that time, we were actually auctioning off a box of my products. So everything was ready to go, but I hadn't launched yet, and officially. I had done a little bit of, marketing and things. I was just holding back, right? So I was like 90% there. I wasn't sure. And so after we had that, and after her inspirational talk and everything, I just kind of went for it. I said, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. There was something holding me back. Like I was a little bit scared, because you're starting something, going into the unknown, and you don't know if it's going to be successful, and you don't know that all this work you've been doing for so many years, once you like hit the button that, okay, we're going live, it's kind of a little bit of scary thought that, is it really going to work? Is everything that I did, you kind of have that self-doubt, you have imposter syndrome at that point. Oh, do I really know what I'm talking about? Is this something that, is for me, or for, going to benefit other people? So anyway,
it's a stressful period, right? When you're just about to put yourself out there and share what you're working on with the world.
So anyway, I kind of got off topic. I'm sorry. What were we talking about?
Yeah, no. So you were sharing actually the story of how I think Melanie inspired you, or when you were there, you were inspired.
Yes.
Thanks
so
to Melanie in regards to
the marketing. Anyway, so I spoke to this marketing executive, and we just decided that we were going to I was going to build my own website. First, I was going to hire somebody, but I was like, you know what? I think there's enough platforms and stuff. I can do it because I've done it before. So that's what I did. I have an IT and statistics background, way back when, like 20 years ago. So, so that's the path we went down with. So the next thing though was sourcing our materials, right? You have to like do all this research in, when you're starting a small business, everything for a product-based business is sold in like thousands of quantities.
Yes, the MOQ, right? The minimum order quantity that you're going to deal with suppliers.
Profitable for you, right? Otherwise, it's, a third party selling something, and it's, they've upped their costs. And so to you, everything ends up being so expensive. And so I found some local manufacturers of like the packaging materials and things over here. And I just had to do lots of research and get quotes and, get things in the hundreds, so not the thousands. Right. And then all the label designing and all that type of stuff, we kind of went cheap on that. We wanted everything to look luxurious, but we couldn't afford, for example, laser printing on bottles, right? Because that is just, and there's a minimum order quantity of like 5,000 for that. So when you're just starting up, when you're launching a business, you're like, wait, am I gonna,
let's start a little bit smaller here. Let's not get too over ambitious.
Exactly. So, we did with whatever, abilities that I had. And so everything looks like it's laser printed, but those are just, clear labels that we were able to get at a really, really good price. Okay. And then I wanted to talk about sourcing of our materials. So that was one of the parts that we decided we wanted to focus on, right? Is how and where we source our materials, because a lot of the stuff is, you can buy from different companies over here but they purchase it from overseas. For example, our argan oil and our dateseed oil and the black seed oil and things like that. And while we were researching, I had known about the Muslim women's cooperatives in Africa, and what they do is they hire women, give them a living wage, and that helps them get a livelihood for them, basically, right? And so we started looking at that avenue for whatever product, for whatever raw materials that we could possibly. So we have, 3 of our raw materials that come from women's cooperatives in different African countries. Because like I said, we wanted to not only build a brand, but we wanted to build a brand that along the way helped whatever communities it was touching. So if we're sourcing materials from Morocco or from Mauritius or from, Ghana, we wanted to help those communities where we're sourcing those materials, because we didn't want to just take away from those local communities. Because when you buy ingredients that are cheap, that are, from these big manufacturers, they don't really care about those workers and those communities, right? Yes. And so that's how we started. And even the products that we source locally, we source from, there's actually a company in Canada that we source many of our ingredients from, and they actually give meals to 8 families for every purchase that I make for raw materials. Amazing. Yeah. So, so you kind of, it's like, pay it forward type of thing. Right. And so, again, it was kind of that whole I want to do everything right, but I also want to just not do it for making money. I want to help everybody that I can on the way. We have a tea farm that we use in for our Ayurvedic / Islamic teas in India that actually is a fair trade farm. And what that does is it helps with the education of their children and make sure that they get paid well. Because as you know, in a lot of these third world countries, labor is exploited. And that's something that is totally against Islam, and we wanted to make sure that we were not part of that if we can avoid it, basically.
Definitely. Wow, that's beautiful, mashallah. I love that. So not only did you try to really make a product that was natural, again, that really used pure ingredients, but then you also went out and decided to really understand and research and study the process of where you're sourcing those ingredients, and really try to find sustainable and ethical suppliers to be able to benefit others along the way. And I think that's a beautiful initiative, mashallah. And I think there's going to be so much barakah in your business because of that, right? Inshallah. So
inshallah.
When you do those things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then, helps you out in return. And so I think there's definitely, even for us as Muslims, we know there's a spiritual benefit to doing those things, not only a worldly benefit of helping others, but the spiritual as well.
Yes, exactly. And, this is something that I was building with my daughter. So my daughter and I kind of built this brand together. We, tested on ourselves, and we did a lot of the research and the mixing of the products and, things when we started from home ourselves. And that was something that you want to instill in your children as well, that whatever you do first and foremost for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then two, you don't just do it for the money. You do it for the best with ihsan as you possibly can in every aspect of it. So we went sustainable, ethical, natural, and then of course, made sure that we were helping the communities from which we sourced from.
Right. That's beautiful, mashallah. And you decided to then finally, you've sourced all these products, you've found, suppliers across different countries to bring it all together and to create your product. And now it's time for launch.
Yes.
You want to go out and you want to launch your product. And for a lot of people, this is a stressful period because am I going to make sales? Am I going to get my customers, to come and buy? So for you, what is it that you did? And maybe that would hopefully give some value for our listeners. What is it that you did to actually go about marketing your products when you launched?
Okay. So I think this was my hardest, most difficult part of the process. Like I love the designing and the building and the making, but how do you put yourself out there and how do you market yourself? Because that's something almost that we're taught not to do, right? Like to boast and talk about yourself and your products and things. So that was like the hardest thing, is how do you put yourself out there? And that was actually my biggest challenge. I'm going to answer one of your other questions. Was I had not been on social media for a while, and now everything was social media, right? And I'm talking about 2017, 2018, right? And so meaning not Instagram, not Twitter and Snapchat and stuff. I had an account, but I never ever used it, and it was just Facebook, and Facebook was only for basically personal and obviously community related events. And so that was my biggest challenge, was I needed to learn how to market through Facebook, how to market through Instagram, because that is what everybody was doing, and that's how you get seen and noticed nowadays, right? And so I wish I had started that process earlier, as opposed to waiting till it was almost launch time, because you can build up yourself and build up your brand even before launching. And that's, some advice that I would give to somebody. Even when you're thinking about things, you need to document all that process, what you're doing, where you're going out and stuff, because that's what kind of builds that, intrigue basically before you launch, and you get your followers and things like that before you even launch. And there's marketing companies that can help you also do like a press release, or do get yourself into different magazines and things, which I'm now just doing because I didn't know about this before, right? Even before you launch a product. So if anybody watching needs help with connecting with anybody that can help you do that, or I can help you, please, I'd definitely be willing to help you out, because that's what I'm doing right now, which I should have done like 2 years ago, but I didn't know. And that's what, that's why we're here. We learn from our mistakes. So I did a lot of Instagram marketing. I did Facebook marketing. And then the very, very first thing though after all that, I wasn't getting a lot of sales, because this is like March 2019. And then in July, I think, of 2019, I stumbled upon, it was a Muslim Women's Entrepreneurship Conference that was happening in California. And so I contacted the owner. Her name is Hassana Al-Yakubi, and it's called PFH, and it's like a modest, she has modest fashion line, but she also for many years has this conference. And so I was able to get a booth in that conference. So I flew with my daughter in August of 2019 to California with all our products and everything like that. And we set up a table. And I think that was kind of the turning point where I physically showed my product, and I made a lot of connections, basically, you know, a lot of those, you know, and which I still have today. You know, I met Yasmin El-Hadi, who's the comedian. I met Isra Chalker. I don't know if you know her she is, you know, does a lot of humanitarian work. And I met, you know, so many of these other inspirational women at that entrepreneurship conference, that I think those connections really helped me, because in the end, they started advertising my products and buying my products, because I also was able to get my products into their gift bags. So all of these, you know, influential people who were speaking at the events and who were, you know, the organizers. And if you got a VIP pass, you got kind of like a little gift bag, right? And in that, we were able to donate 100 of our products that went in that. And then we also put inserts about our company and things like that. So that was, I think, the biggest marketing, you know, launch that we could have done. And because I didn't really know how else to market it, because you're not in a physical store and you're just, you know, online. And other than marketing on those two platforms, I didn't know how else to. We had planned to go to like ISNA and, you know, ICNA and things, but then COVID happened. And so then all these, you know, conferences and things didn't pan out. So anyways, that was how I went about marketing. I tried to get on different, you know, podcasts and talk to different, do lives with like Hakima. I don't know if you know her. She's from like in the DC area, and things, people, basically influencers, right? Who also shared the same values that I had, because I didn't want to veer from, you know, what my mission statement was, you know, and, you know, I picked and chose those people carefully on my end as well, you know, on who I wanted to represent, or, you know, who would understand my vision of the
what it is you're trying to do,
right, and what I'm trying to accomplish. So, anyways, so that's
would you
how
feel like
we started with the marketing, and right now we do. You know, you have to build your email list, right? And how do you do that? So you have to make sure that you ask people to sign up on your website for the email list. You know, and you need to have the default as yes, sign up, and they have to unclick it. You know, those little types of things to not be on the list. And so then you send out, you know, your marketing emails, and then, you know, promotions, and just just keep doing it, keep at it. And if you have any connections, like if you have people who are like yourself are doing podcasts, or if you have friends that are friends with other people, you need to contact them and say, hey, can you share this, or can you do you want to try this product? And so we did that initially, and then we started reaching out to influencers who are paid influencers, basically, because what you don't want to do is, that's their time, that's their money. I mean, that's their time, and time is what's valuable. And so you have to do that as well. So that is how it started.
Would you say that marketing with influencers, what was the most impactful for you in your business personally? I know you mentioned you tried Instagram marketing, physical marketing first, which I'm guessing was paid. So were you like trying to pay for ads and seeing how that would work
Exactly.
out?
Yeah. So I was just trying to pay for, the ads that pop up on your stories, or the ads that pop up, when you're scrolling. Same with Facebook. And you can set parameters for, do you want men, women, between the ages of what the ages are, right? Like narrow down your, audience pool. And so that's who it, targets and markets towards. But yeah, which was, we got a few sales here and there, but I didn't really feel that was what kind of was the way to go for us.
Right.
Maybe we weren't big enough, or maybe. Yeah.
With the
So
influencer marketing, did that turn things around? Do you feel like that was more impactful for your business?
I'm sorry, I didn't
Was
hear
the
what you said.
influencer marketing, did that end up being more impactful for your business at the end of the day?
Yes, it did. It did,
Okay.
because of who the influencers were, not,
Mhm.
because of who their base was, right? So if they were just any influencer and their
Right.
base was not, a Muslim majority base, I don't think that would have helped. But because
Mhm.
of the influencers that I did use, they were majority Muslim followers. I think that's what helped a lot. So when
Of
you're
course.
looking at whatever your niche market is, you also have to look at the influencers and who their followers are to actually
Yeah.
make a difference. Because I did send my products out to other influencers that were not Muslim as well,
Mhm.
and that did not make much of a difference
Okay.
in my sales at the end of the day.
Right. And that's really, it's interesting for you to say, because really that's just like advertising. When you set the parameters of who your ideal client is, and you're trying to reach,
Mm-hmm.
with influencer marketing as well, it's not only important to just look at who has the most followers, but then also to look at who actually, even if they're smaller, right? Even if they have like 8,000 followers or, 10,000 followers, but are those followers, is that a pool of your ideal clients or potentially people who would be interested in what you have to offer, right? And I,
Exactly.
and that's more
Right.
important.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that I kind of just learned by trial and error, basically, because like I
Mhm.
said, I'm not, that's my weak point is the marketing. And you would think that that's what you really need to,
Yeah.
you need to be an expert on, but, I'm learning as I'm going. So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm really glad that you shared that. I think that's a lot of value already that a lot of people could take away to, have those ideas to how they could potentially market their products. And I want to ask you for yourself, what has been the biggest lesson that you've learned throughout your business journey so far of building this business and going through, manufacturing and launching a product and a skincare brand? What has been the biggest lesson for you?
Um, that the biggest lesson is not to lose hope, I think.
Right.
Is that it'll happen eventually, because honestly, like when I launched, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get so many sales, this is going to be amazing, because you believe in
Right.
your product, you worked so hard for it for so many years, you did all
Yeah.
the data and the research and everything, and the packaging, and you're like, okay, ready to go, I'm going to get so many sales. And then like you launch and it's crickets, right?
Mm.
And so then you just have to you know just I know that's the
Kind of like
truth.
a
You just
reality
have to
hits and you're
keep
like,
at it,
okay,
because
it's a process.
it's a process and it takes time, and nothing happens overnight, right? Like nobody knows that you spent like 3 years trying to do this, right? To them it was just, oh, there's this new product out there, right? And so that will happen. And the biggest, I think, takeaway is that you need to start early. Like when you have this idea, you need to start putting yourself out there and marketing at that time, and not wait for when you release the product.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely. And I
it
agree with
is.
that. And I think all of us as entrepreneurs, like reality hits us at some point where we think we're going to launch and okay, we're going to be a millionaire overnight. It's going to be, this is it. This is the
Yeah.
idea. Right. And it's so funny when, reality hits and like, months go by and you're like, wait, this is not exactly where I want it to be. But that's the point where it's like people will either look at that and be like, oh, wait, it's not an overnight success story, I'm done working on it.
Right.
Or, you actually tough it out and you realize, well, it's natural. All great businesses take years to build,
Right.
and you have to learn as well along the way what it is that you need to do. And I think once you go through that process, and you learn how to have that patience, then you can really just focus on the present and what you can do right now to help, increase just a little bit, your revenue, or just, reach that next milestone or that next goal within your business.
Right. And I think one of the other things is that we don't also know what is best for us, right? At that time, as Muslims, right? We believe that whatever happens for a reason, and whatever the timeline is, it happens for a reason. And I think when I look back, I don't think I could have handled, even physically, with the things I was doing in the community and with my little children, if I was to be some overnight success, right? Like
Right.
that would just not have been possible. I would have had to like scale back. Like I didn't have that, so that economies of scale, right, that you talk about at that time. And I didn't have the know-how of how I'm going to do this, because you're just launching kind of when you're not an expert in entrepreneurship, or you're not an expert in marketing, right? And so there's wisdom in that as well. So if something isn't happening the way you had planned for it to happen, I think we need to take a step back and just accept the fact that this is good for me now, and maybe there's something better, or this timeline that's happening is what is going to help me in the future, and maybe this is what I really need, and maybe I wouldn't have done so well if something happened differently, right? So we have to accept that as Muslims, that this is the way it is, and this is the best for me at this time. Right?
Yeah, definitely. No, I completely agree. I want to share a few tidbits that people can kind of remember and memorize from this episode. Yes. And I'm sure there's so much already that we've shared, but for you, what is it that you would give as advice to other Muslims who are listening to this, who are thinking of starting their own product businesses specifically? Is there, maybe some tips that stand out to you that you could share with our listeners today?
Sure. So the first tip is that you have to find your niche, right? You have to really find whatever you are selling and what differentiates you. That's the first thing. Because for me, like now I look back, there are a lot of now natural organic brands, right? The big companies, that's where they're going for. They're all sustainable. They're all, recyclable and natural packaging and stuff. So there's no way that you as a small business without, a huge, backing can actually compete with them. So what is your niche, right? So my niche, for example, is using the prophetic ingredients, the black seed specifically, which is not, no other brand really uses that, right? And so you have to make sure you know what your small niche is, and that you have to advertise that, right? Because otherwise, the likelihood that there's somebody else out there that is in your same line, has already thought of that product, is very high, right? Because that's just how, statistically speaking, that's what it's going to be. So you have to define what that niche is early on. And you have to define, if it's not necessarily a product, but if it's like, for example, we're not just product, it's also lifestyle, right? Like advice and things like that, recipes and things on our blog, what your voice is going to be, right? And I struggled a lot with that. And I think it was because I was trying to please a lot of people, and I was trying to market to a lot of people. So you have to, one, know what your niche is, and two, who your actual audience is going to be. Because I was trying to include, well, if I say ancient ingredients and probiotic and stuff, I can market to, the masses, as opposed to just people who understand, from an Islamic standpoint type of thing. And so I think that was a mistake that I made initially, that I was trying to, kind of cover it all instead of really, really stick to my niche market.
Yeah, definitely. Well, those are really two great pieces of advice. And I think really the importance of them is one that most startup entrepreneurs underestimate. And a lot of times when I'm in my coaching sessions with my students for our mentorship program, and we're talking about, conversations related to marketing, related to sales, related to increasing revenue, and all of those, important topics within business, most conversations will end up at, hey, we need to look at really who is your niche at the end of the day, and who are you talking to? And, do you really know who your client is? Because the minute you don't is when sales fall flat. It's when your marketing, your communication falls flat, because you don't know who you're talking to. But when you have that vivid and clear image in your mind of, this is who I'm talking to, this is who I want to attract, then you're able to communicate according to their fears, their challenges, their obstacles, their goals, and really, relate to them, where they look at your business or your product, or even, look at your marketing and feel like, wow, this was made just for me. And that's what you want them to feel.
Exactly. And I think that's where just like you said, initially, I didn't understand that properly. And I think if I was to go back, that was one of the biggest takeaways that I would readdress if I could in the very beginning. And then the other thing is that you don't have to have everything perfect, in the sense that if you're 80% of the way there, like with your website and your marketing, you know, materials and things like that, just go for it, because there's always things that you're going to have to do afterwards anyways that you didn't think about. So, you know, if you're 80-90% of the way there, just go for it. That's my advice. And I wish I had done that, because I literally waited for 6 months for no reason, you know, because I had this imposter, you know, syndrome. I wanted the website, everything to be just ready to go when, thinking I'm going to, you know, have like, you know, so many, you know, orders right off the bat. So anyway, so that's my little piece of advice.
For sure. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And what's in store? What can we expect from Nyure Beauty in the future?
Sure. So we are working with a few manufacturers, zero waste facilities, and creating, I can't say what the product is. So it's going to be a revolutionary product that, you know, is going to change, you know, something for a lot of skincare, makeup for a lot of women, Muslim women, as well as, you know, women of color, and hopefully everybody else. So
that's awesome, mashallah. And right now, with your one question that I actually have for you, with the skincare products, have they been tested against people who, for example, suffer from irritations of the skin, acne, or, you know, other issues? And do they, in your experience, I know maybe you don't want to make any health claims, but have they had an impact on any of those issues?
Yes. So our Tree Hugger balancing face oil is actually, so our products target different, you know, conditions or areas. So it's the one in the green bottle. And that is, I think, our best seller, because it helps with eczema and it helps with acne. So you will see, if you have acne, it will, so you can't change hormonal acne, right? Because it's coming from inside, it's not topical. But when you use that, you will see the cycle shortened. If you have eczema, I've had, I think, tens of people come back to me and said, I've been using this eczema cream for years and this eczema spot won't go away, but I started putting the oil on my hand and whatever, and it's like gone, right? And so it wasn't meant for eczema initially, but people are using it for, you know, eczema. And it was for vitiligo is what I had used it for. So you don't have the irritation. So the purpose of this product specifically was that you does not cause your irritation. And it actually helps balance out your skin, and it's not oily and, you know, anything like that. And so the ingredients in them are for, you know, acne prone skin. And I have 2 teenagers and they've been using it for years. So
I'm going to have to pick one up of those. Can men use it too? Is that okay?
Yes, I actually have a handful of men that use that use the Tree Hugger. I also have a beard oil, which is based, it also has flaxseed oil and fig seed, and that was one of our best-selling products as well. But yes, there is a handful of men. And what I do, because I know there are men, they don't want the gold bottles, I put it in a different bottle for them. So.
Awesome. I'll write a note. I think this is for a man. Can we change the color?
So
love it.
So I do. I do, just because, you know, most of them are people that I know that I do that for. And sorry, excuse me. I'm going to put this down. And you know, why not? Because that's just part of customer service, right?
For sure. I love that. That's really nice. So there's a question that I ask every single guest that comes on this podcast. And I'd love to share it with you as well. Get your answer for this question. And the question is the following. If you could meet Arooj from 3 years ago or more, when you were just kind of getting started on this journey, right? You were just thinking of creating this product and you were about to go and embark on this tumultuous journey of entrepreneurship. And you could tell her one thing, you can meet her and you could tell her one thing that she could hold on to throughout her journey, kind of like a mantra, something that she could remember, she could refer to. What would that one thing be for you?
I think it would be, don't stress and everything will be okay. In the end.
Awesome. I love that. And is it because you feel like the journey can be stressful sometimes? And it can,
because, you know, depending on the type of personality you are, I'm like a perfectionist in everything that I do and in whatever I take on, right? Like if I have a project with like the masjid or with, you know, another organization, I have to like be all in and really, really puts, you know, takes a lot out of me, right? Like I don't like to do anything halfway. And so I think the initial process, it took such a mental burden capacity to do this with, remember, you're like a mom and you have 3 kids and you have, all these other, after school activities, blah, blah, whatever. So it took like a lot out of me, and I had my own deadlines set for myself. And if I didn't meet them, I would, mentally be like, oh no, I had to do this and I didn't do it. And I think that's something that you have to set those deadlines, or else you're never going to get anything done for yourself, because you're in business for yourself, but you also can't be so hard on yourself. And I think that I was so hard on myself that to get everything done perfectly and launched and everything, because it's just you really, and your kid, but
and we could get into our head sometimes, can't we?
Yeah, definitely. You articulate it so well. I'm having such a hard time articulating.
No, you're doing great. Honestly, there's so much value to be had here. So I really appreciate everything you're sharing. There's actually a few questions from the audience that came in. So that's okay with you. We're going to go and dive into some audience Q&A now. Is that all right?
Of course.
Let's do it. So right now in the audience, we got 3 questions that already came in. We'll try to get to as many as possible. So one of them is a great question from one of our viewers on Facebook. And they're asking, how important is creative packaging for a cosmetics brand? So how did you create your packaging? Was it based on customer feedback, or did you have some sort of inspiration beforehand?
Got it. So I had a vision that I wanted it to be like a luxury look. And when I did my own market research, I went to stores, I went to Sephora and Ulta, and, there were some brands that I kind of loved the packaging of, and I didn't want to copy them, but they were just an inspiration. But now that I revisit it, I'm actually doing a rebranding of my packaging. I have like a session in the mid of December, because I think because I hadn't defined who my target audience was exactly perfectly, like we talked about. For my target audience, I think the look and feel of like the bottles doesn't match what my like mission statement really is. Like, it's luxury, it's glass, it's recyclable, but that's something that you would find at like a Clinique or something else, right? As opposed to more of a natural looking product. So we're trying to just rebrand the image, and inshallah, that's something new you'll see in the future. But it is very, very, very important, because, part of marketing is, you have just a few seconds to grab somebody's attention. Right. And then the packaging has to match what your vision is.
For sure. I mean, the packaging is kind of like that first impression, like when you show up on a date and they have that first glance, right? It's everything. And so the packaging, when they open that box and they receive your product, and the first look they give, that's kind of the initial impression before they even use the product. That you want to hit them with something where they're going to feel like, okay, this is very much Nyure. This is very much this brand and who they are and who they speak to, right?
Right. So we got the luxury part down, but I think we missed a beat on the sustainable, natural part, where it is all those things, but it doesn't look like it is those things. Does that?
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that, and I like that you say that, because what you're saying essentially is, guys, don't overthink it. You're saying go with it, go with your initial idea or your initial concept of what you think would work, and modify it along the way. I'm partnered in an e-commerce brand. We're called Craywoods. We're actually, these glasses are made by us, and we're also a sustainable eyewear. So we do like wooden frames, and we plant a tree for every pair sold. Yeah, so it's craywoods.com, to give it a shout out if you want to check it out. And what we've gone through, I think like 5 to 10 iterations of our packaging so far, just always improving it and changing it and getting ideas.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important point, is that, when you're creating a product business, as you mentioned earlier, we could get stuck on perfection, right? Like the analysis paralysis. And it's very important as an entrepreneur to just understand that no matter what it is that you do, it's always going to change. I mean, if it doesn't, that means you're stagnating, right? So whether it's your packaging, whether it's your marketing, whether it's anything else, go with what you think is best right now, and then you can improve it as you go along.
Right, exactly. And so we're about 2 years really in, and then, but of course it's a high cost, right, to initially do all that. And so once you're, so you're going to have to invest again into, the remarketing, the repackaging, and things like that.
Yes.
So that's just something that, if you want to do that, that's what you're going to have to do. And that's the decision that we made, that I think we're going to have to just change change it up a little bit.
Yeah. So we got 3 more questions that I'm gonna bring up here. One of them is, how long did it take? So from our viewers on YouTube, how long did it take for you to formulate your products? So like the creation phase of the product, how long did that take you?
2 years.
Wow. So definitely a long time.
Yeah. So it wasn't just an overnight. So when somebody thinks that, whatever, because and that's just not me. Like a product once, because we do have products that are not, that are manufactured by, other facilities, right? So we have the face mist and we have a cleanser actually that we're testing right now. I've been testing it for almost 8 months now. And we've done different reiterations for sensitive skin. So that's one of the new products that are coming out. It's a sensitive skin facial cleanser, right? And so we've been testing it for 8 months, and there's different iterations going on. But it's just back and forth because you have to formulate it, and maybe it doesn't. Then you have to test it, and then you have to get the data, and then you have to reformulate it, and then you have to test it on a number of people, and then all those types of things, and then you have to recreate it and get things done. So I don't know if somebody's trying to create a skincare brand, please come to me because, this was a learning experience for me on how formulas are actually measured and created. There's like a science behind that. And that was all something that also took me months to learn, from different people. So I worked with a organic chemist actually initially. And they're the ones who kind of helped me formulated, and I found them on Fiverr. I don't know if or Upwork, if you know these websites. So if you're looking for something, because they can be expensive, so you can find a lot of your resources on these platforms.
Definitely. Amazing platforms. I use them all the time in my business. Another question from the audience right here. So also from one of our viewers on YouTube, what are some of your references or resources when it comes to marketing tactics? So we talked about marketing, on this episode, influencer marketing, Facebook, Instagram. I think maybe what they're asking is, what do you refer to? What are some of your resources to help you throughout devising strategies for your e-commerce business?
Got it. So definitely speak to a marketing expert, right?
Okay.
It's like I did the first thing, but also you're going to have to budget a portion of your budget towards marketing, because you can't have sales without marketing. And I think I misunderstood that as well, how important that piece was. You would think that it would be intuitive, but for some reason that was something that I missed, and that's something that I'm working on and struggling with now. Although, alhamdulillah, I went through all those struggles before. I'm now finally hired a professional marketing firm to help me with some of those pieces that I am not an expert on. And so the first thing, and reading a lot of blogs. So reading marketing blogs, reading, articles that come out on how to market, that helped me a lot. So the number one thing that I didn't realize was the email list, and sending out, not, a whole lot of emails, because people don't like, to be bombarded, but we get a lot, believe it or not, of our orders from our email lists. So when you have an update, when you have a new product come out, when you just have it, people click on it. So, and our click rate for opening of emails is like 30%.
Amazing, mashallah.
Yeah,
so
which
that's
is
actually
really,
great.
really
That's
high.
Beautiful.
As
that's great.
right? Because you have, again, your audience is who you want your audience to be, right?
Right.
So
definitely.
Anyways, so
and do you a question here that I'm gonna add on to it, but when you talk about email marketing, are you always sending, because a lot of people think I should just always send like discounts or offers or this or that. Do you actually only sell in those emails, or do you sometimes share updates or share what you're working on or share some backstory?
That's important. So we share updates, because a lot of what we also do is, percentage of our proceeds go to, this cause or that cause, whatever. So when you want to follow up with people that, okay, this month we were able to provide, meals for the homeless with the purchases that were made, and we just had an email go out last week that, product is back in stock. Or we had an email go out that we apologize that everything is out of stock because of COVID, and we can't, the supply chain is so backed up. So, you know, those types of things. So people love that. And then we thought about creating like just a newsletter with, you know, updates on recipes and just informational, but we just don't have the bandwidth. So.
Got it. And we'll take one last question from the audience. And this one is very simple. Do you ship worldwide? So do you offer worldwide shipping?
No. Not yet.
No, I'm sorry. Whoever asked this question, I apologize.
No. But I will. If you want me to, I will ship it to you. We don't offer it on our website right now because most people don't want to pay because even if I pay for shipping, for example, they still have to pay a tax. Or incoming products in most countries, right? And so most people don't want to do that. Right now. So we ship to Canada actually all the time. So Canada is not a problem. We have shipped to England and we have shipped to Germany before. And so those are the countries that we've shipped to before. So if you want me to, I will, as long as I can't control the country that I'm selling to's tax that they charge on incoming products. So I can control things on my end. So a lot of people don't want to do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, if ever you're interested, reach out to Sister Arooj Nyure Beauty on Instagram.
Yes, and I will be happy to send you anything.
Send them a DM and see if we can get that arranged for you, inshallah. Just go ahead on, it's Nyure Beauty, right? So Nyure Beauty on Instagram, right? Yeah. So go ahead and pull that up, send them a DM and reach out. So honestly, it's been a beautiful episode. We've had so much value shared today and so many insights that, you know, people can benefit from. And I think anyone starting a product business would be really doing themselves a disservice by not listening to this episode and taking notes, because this was a masterclass that, you know, there's so much value shared and so much benefit that you can take away, honestly, from everything that we discussed. How can people connect with you? How can people support you? How can people go and buy your products? Where should we send our listeners to if they want to learn more about you?
You can go to nyure.com, nyure.com, and that has all our information. You can send me a message through there, or you can DM me through at Nyure Beauty, NYUREBEATU.
Okay, awesome. So Nyure.com and Nyure Beauty on Instagram. We're going to drop the links in the episode notes if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or, you know, the description, YouTube, whatever it is. But check out the description, episode notes, and you'll find the links there. Nyure Beauty, NYURE Beauty. Okay, or Nyure.com. Check that out, guys, and make sure to go and give their products a try and see how you like it. And send her a DM, give them your feedback, and send me a DM as well, and let me know if you did get a chance to try the product after the episode. I would love to hear your opinion as well. Sis, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was really, you know, a great learning experience for me too, because I've only been on a handful of podcasts. So I apologize if I, you know, tripped up or stuttered or
not at all.
Wasn't as articulate as, you know, you had hoped.
No, not at all. This was like I said, this was a masterclass. So I mean, if someone was listening to this and not taking notes, I don't know what you're doing out there, but I mean, look, there's a lot of value to be had here.
I'm always open to help out anybody, because, you know, that is something that, you know, we as Muslims need to do. If you're going to help somebody out, you're only going to increase your own barakah. You know, you're not going to take away 100%. From anybody by helping from yourself by helping out somebody else, because, you know, that is just, you know, the mindset that you have to have.
Yeah, 100%. I love that attitude, mashallah, and it shows in the way that you source your products, the way that you operate as a business. It's evident that you live within that mantra as well. So it's really nice to have you. And again, guys, if you are thinking of buying a skincare product and you head to Sephora, do a 180, turn back, go home, and go to Nyure.com and get a bottle of their skincare, and you'll be amazed, inshallah.
They make for great gifts. The packaging that it comes on is beautiful. When we send it as a gift, you can just mention in there. And we also have the men's care products. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. It was a pleasure.
All right, thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. And guys, you know the drill. So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and rate the podcast to show your support. And also, if you need help with your business, okay, go and follow us on your social media platform, on your favorite platform. Search Ummahpreneur, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you are. And if you want to speak to us, you're like, hey, Abby, I want to talk to you. I want to ask you questions. Maybe I want help with my business. You can do so by going to ummahpreneur.com/call. So ummahpreneur.com/call. and we'll speak to you to understand what your goals are and how we can help you in your business journey, inshallah. Whether you're just getting started, whether you just want to start from scratch, or you want to grow your business and take the next level. Until then, I'll see you in the next episode, guys. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.